Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, April 5th of 2026. Now, last week as I started my journaling, at the very beginning of my journal it was actually at the end of Sunday, I wrote the words solo act. That's what my message was last week, kind of where I really focused my journaling on. And I just kind of sat with that and I underlined it a few times. And then I wrote, what does that really mean? And like on kind of a broad level. And then I wrote it means for me self-trust. So like your intuition, your common sense. And I thought, oh yeah, okay. If I trust myself to make any decision in my life, what does that exactly mean? Because I do believe that a piece of that allows us, a big piece of it allows us to remember who we are, realize that we are the ones that are responsible for whatever our life looks like, not just in this reality and in this lifetime, but when we transcend, when we transition to the next life. So I kind of sat with that for a little bit, and I'm just going to share uh, my journaling thoughts from this week on self trust. Okay, so I realized that self trust is not just personal, okay? It's relational, but not in the way that we think, okay? And it's not just with other people, so it's not just relational, it's with life itself. Like that really dropped into me really big this week. It's like, okay, when I trust myself, it's not just about the relationships, the situations, or whatever. I am now trusting and having a relationship with life itself. Like that's big, okay? So there's a version of me that exists beyond my thinking mind. And for me, I wrote in big letters overthinking because my mind tends to do that quite a bit. And what it feels like is deeper. It's a deeper intelligence. Okay. When I begin to trust myself, what I'm really doing is tuning into the signal. Okay. I am not separate from this field, but I am moving through it every day, every hour, every minute, everything I do. When I get in my car and I drive to the store, when I get in the car and I drive to a different state to go to a conference, or when I get on a plane, I am actually moving through the field. I am moving through this deeper intelligence. Like that is such a powerful thing to realize. Okay. I'm not separate from this field. I am moving through it. So every decision I make, every time I have courage, every time I choose myself. So I'm choosing me instead of abandoning me. How many times do we do that? You know, it's so many times we don't choose ourselves. Okay. Um, I, let's see. I am going into what I realize I'm going into an inner alignment. I'm aligning with myself. And it's something that's much bigger. It's much, much bigger than myself. Okay. Some people call it intuition, consciousness, or even the quantum field. Okay. Whatever name, you can name it whatever you want to name it. It feels like coherence that happens when I trust myself. Okay. That's what it feels like. All those things too. Intuition, consciousness, quantum entanglement. Everything becomes coherent. When I start to trust myself, it's really, really amazing to actually realize that maybe you do too, as I'm saying this, you realize you actually interact with the field a lot more than you thought. And you can really put this into any context you want. If prayer is the way you tap into the field and to God, that is exactly the same thing. Okay. And actually, that will probably be something I'll get maybe a little bit of pushback on, which is okay. Okay, so this is how I think about it. Because I love quantum entanglement and I talk about it all the time. So in quantum entanglement, when you have two different particles, once they are connected, they will always remain linked, no matter how far the distance. Think about siblings that maybe are adopted to different families when they're very small, and then they reconnect as adults and they realize how much they have in common. And I'm not just talking about physically, but I'm talking about maybe personality traits or different quirks or the way they dress. I mean, even twins who are separated at birth. You know, it's really fascinating because once particles are connected, they will stay connected no matter how far the distance is. You know, this is something that we have to really wrap our head around. And once that drops in, it's like, oh, of course that makes sense. Okay. So then I have this question. What if self-trust is remembering that I am entangled in this deeper knowing? I'm entangled in it. Okay. What if that's what self-trust is that knowing I am entangled in this greater, deeper intelligence. Okay. So there's a part of me that already sees further. I already see that. And it goes past this, past fear and past my mind trying to figure everything out. Okay. And I realize that it's all constantly communicating with me. I mean, how beautiful is that? So the question is not this, what or do I know what to do? So that's not the question. The question is not, do I know what to do? It becomes this, I realize. Am I willing to listen to what is already being shown to me? This is where you have to get quiet and you have to listen. I'm telling you, if you have not done this yet, after at this point, me, years and years of talking about it, week after week, of sitting with yourself with a journal and no distractions, there is such a beautiful, deeper intelligence that will come in. It will drop into you, and you have to be patient. You can't just go, oh, okay, I've been sitting still for 30 minutes. Where's my phone? What did someone post on Facebook or Instagram? No, no, no. Okay. So I realize this every time I override my own judgment, every time I doubt how I feel, every time I do those things, I'm messing up the signal. And it's almost like I'm creating static out in the field. So every time I override my own judgment, okay, or every time I doubt something I'm feeling, and there's been many times when I've shared this as well, and it's a very simple example. I'm going somewhere and there's two different routes. I'm driving and I get an intuition to go one way or the other way. Every time I haven't followed that intuition, there's a holdup, or there's always something. Maybe I barely missed an accident, but every time I follow my intuition, my deeper knowing, it always serves me, and I might not ever know what happened in the path I didn't take. Okay, so every time I listen and every time I move forward, even when I'm not certain, I'm aligning with the field. Okay. And I strengthen the connection. That's the cool thing. Every time I do that, I'm strengthening that connection. So now I don't even, it's a simple pull. If I feel pulled to go one way, if I feel pulled not to eat something, I mean, it goes for everything. I mean, I literally will tap in energetically to the supplements I need to take on a daily basis. I can energetically feel which ones I need. And at this point, I barely even have to. I know what my body needs. I'm so tapped into that. So it's a practice thing. So this is where self-trust becomes more than me just being confident, is what I realize. Okay. It's more like I'm just coherent with everything. So then I wrote this. I realize my inner world and my outer actions are talking to each other. Okay. So what I'm feeling inside and what I'm actually doing on the outside, there's a communication, and it's really beautiful. Okay. So here's what I realized. If things on the outside feel like they're uncertain, they move too fast, or they're unpredictable. Okay. This is where my inner knowing becomes everything. That's where it becomes everything. Because as we know, in this world, and here we are in 2026, there's a lot of things that are changing. The timelines are splitting. Systems are not working for humans anymore. And this is something we have known about for a long, long time. And especially as 2020 started, we realized, oh, there's a lot of things that are broken. Okay. So it's not about not trusting external authority. Okay. This is what I wrote. It's not about not trusting external authority. But it's not, let's see, how did I write that? So the old structures that we used to rely on, they're shifting. So it feels like external authority is about not trusting. Okay, and this is I don't know exactly what I was talking about here, but it feels like the clear answers to things are much harder to find. Like even with AI, even with like ChatGPT or Grok or all the things that people are looking to for answers, even if you look to that, it's all right here. The self-trust, the self-knowing, the self it we have so much wisdom and knowledge inside of us, okay? So what I feel like is the world's asking something different from me right now. It feels like I don't want more control. I don't need to have more certainty, okay? And what I really want is I want a deeper alignment. I mean, sure, do we want things to be certain? Things are never going to be certain. You can't, and I think that that's why we are in the mess we are in right now, is because we want safety, security, certainty, stability. Of course we want all those things. We're human beings. We have other people to take care of. We want all those things. Okay. For me, I want a deeper alignment because it takes care of all of those things. It takes care of all of that. And then you're also open for spontaneity and for uncertainty, which can be fun. I mean, this is finite. We are here for a finite experience. How many times do we need to keep hearing that, including myself? I don't know. So I wrote this: self-trust is not about just handling my life. Okay. I want to become someone who can move with life. Okay. I want to become someone who can just, I feel like I'm getting there more and more every day. Every time I have these reflections and write out these deep things in my journal, I feel like I'm moving toward this more and more and more. And I will have to say that hard things that we all go through, they are so valuable. They are so valuable. Like sometimes you just think, no, I want that to go away. I don't want to have that. But when this is navigating complexity, okay? And I actually wrote that. That's what I wrote next. So I want to become someone who can move with life, okay? Than just someone who's pulled back and afraid and doesn't trust, okay? I want to be able to sense things. I want to be able to respond to things in the right way, in the way that's more congruent with me. Not just people, but every situation, okay? And then I wrote, I want to navigate complexity without losing myself. This life calls on us to navigate its complexity. There are so many moving parts. Many of us probably feel like we have 10 plates or 50 plates spinning in the air at one time, that we're navigating so much complexity. And it's not like that's going to turn off or stop. It's not. It's always going to be that. But I want to navigate it without losing myself. Okay. So then I wrote this: I can start to feel that it gets more magical and more mystical. Okay. I trust myself more deeply. And it's like I'm meeting myself there. Like all you got to do is get quiet, open up the space, use your discernment, keep your heart space open, keep your empathy, your compassion, use your discernment. What do you let in? What do you let in? There's so much to not let in, but there's so much to let in. So self-trust, use your discernment. Self-trust, keep your heart space open. This has been also a big theme for me this week. Like, as I've navigated through some really rough things that are now on the other side of me, I also think, well, this is not the end of the hard things, but now I get to navigate them differently because I also trust myself more. And I will tell you, the super hard things that I've had to navigate, especially these last few years, they are consequences of the things that I did not pay attention to when I knew. I will tell you, there are things that I knew were happening and I just brushed them aside. And I know that if you're listening to this, you are probably one of those people too. I don't think any of us, unless we're really open to self-reflection, are willing to admit that. And maybe most people are. Maybe if you're listening to this, you're a person who goes, yeah, 30 years ago I made this decision and it really didn't feel congruent, but I'm a different person now. And we have to give ourselves grace for that as well, right? So it's really at this point, and I want this for everyone alive that is here on this remembering remarkable journey we're on, to make it more magical. Because magic is where the miracles happen and the beauty happens and the joy happens, where we can go, oh yeah, this is kind of really tough. I'm going to handle it and I'm not going to get all worked up about it. I'm not going to be upset and be a victim about it. Okay. So I realize when I trust myself deep and I feel like I'm meeting myself there. Okay. Not because everything is easy. That's why not because everything becomes easy. It's because this is what I realized. I'm no longer resisting my own inner knowing. I no longer resist it. That is so beautiful. What I am doing now is I'm becoming more responsive rather than reactive. And I'm more aligned and more connected. I'm more aligned and connected to everything that's happening in every situation. I can learn to navigate without letting myself be taken over by different people, by different situations, by different, there's so much that we are afraid of that we don't even need to be afraid of. It's just our own mind making stuff up. At least that's my experience for myself. So when I find myself this, uh, and so it's not about asking yourself this. This is what I wrote. Am I doing this right? It's not about asking yourself that. Am I doing this right? It's about this. Am I in alignment with myself as I move? Okay, that's the better question. Not, am I doing this right? No, am I in alignment with myself as I move in whatever it is you're moving? Okay, so I realize there's a beautiful kind of intelligence and common sense that now I can let move through me and I don't have to force it. That's why I don't have to force it. No more forcing. No more forcing. It's only trust, only self trust. And maybe in the world I'm living in, this is really the work. Okay. Not finding all the answers or knowing everything. Okay. I want to become someone who can trust what's inside of me without needing to know first. That's what I want. And I want it to the highest level where it happens like super fast. And I feel like I've a lot of things have dialed in, and thank God at the age I'm at that that is where I feel. And I say this with no ego. I say this with a deep knowledge and lots of mistakes and lots of things that I have done along the way that, to say I wish I could do things differently, that's something I'll say, right? But no, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for where I am. So I've found some super great questions that I'm going to ask you for you to journal on, because there's different sections with self-trust. The first one is tuning into the signal. Okay, so we first have to tune in. Where in my life can I feel a quiet inner knowing, even if I've been ignoring it? So start there. Okay, what feels true for me beneath the noise, opinions, and external input? Okay, where's truth in there? And when do I feel most connected to myself, clear, grounded, and in flow? Think about where. When do I feel most connected to myself? And maybe add where too. Okay, now the second part of this is interference. Okay, so we need to notice where the signal gets interrupted or disrupted. Okay, where am I overriding what I know in favor of fear, doubt, and the expectations of others? That one's massive. What patterns or habits create static between me and my inner knowing? Okay. When have I felt that internal disconnect, and what was I choosing in those moments? This is the things to start paying attention to, because there is that interference. Now, the third part of this is literally remembering. Okay. And we are reconnecting with our deeper intelligent self. Okay. When in my life have I trusted myself and felt deeply aligned, even without certainty, even without the outer external certainty? Okay. Think about those times and then recreate those. What did that feel like in my body, my energy, and my decisions? What does that actually feel like? Like, that is really cool. In fact, I just get chills thinking about that, because there's a feel. You can feel it. In fact, I know when I hear a truth, even if it's just a truth for me, I get full body chills. And I have conversations with friends, and we'll be talking about something. And some of the conversations that I get to have with people I'm connected to, I am so grateful, because they are more than just skin deep. And I've cultivated this and curated this for a long time. And now it is, as I've been searching and really, really being strategic about it, these happen on a more regular basis. So in fact, I met a girlfriend for coffee on Friday. We got up and met early before we both started our workday. And as we were chatting, I would say something because I was catching her up. I hadn't seen her for a long time. And She said, "Oh, when you said that, I got full body chills." And I was like, "I know, it's because it's true." So there's that. It feels different in your body, okay? And it might not always be full body chills or the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It might not always be that, but there's a feel, okay? What part of me already knows how to navigate what I'm facing now? This one is so perfect. What part of me already knows what I have to do and how to navigate something I'm facing? We already know. We already know. And you know what I'm talking about. If you are still here listening to these questions, then you know. Now, the fourth stage is literally coherence, okay? What would it look like to move in alignment with myself, even if I don't have all the answers? Where in my life am I being invited to choose alignment over comfort? Okay, now comfort is a big thing for me. I think it is for a lot of people. In fact, I had like a really silly thing happen. I was with some friends. I was actually out of state. It was about 3 weeks ago, and they were driving me back to the airport, and I was a little bit uncomfortable because I was kind of I was ready to be home, but I had such an amazing time, and um, basically there was windows that were open and there was air coming everywhere, and it was cold. It was a cold morning, and I had this moment of, where is the air coming from? I was sitting in the back seat, and luckily this changed for me super fast. They laughed at me. They're like, "What do you mean? It's just air." I'm like, "Oh." So I love my comfort. I am a person who, I don't like cold plunges. I've tried doing cold plunges, and I've done it a few times, but I don't like it. So I've decided I don't have to do it. So let me read that again. Where in my life am I being invited to choose alignment over comfort? Sometimes we need to do things that are uncomfortable because they align. They're aligned with what we're supposed to do, what we're here to do, what we're supposed to feel, all the things. And what feels like the most honest next step, not the safest, but the truest. Okay. Now, the fifth part of this is embodiment. Okay. I love this. And this is actually living as someone who trusts the signal. Okay, at the deepest level. Now you're going to embody it. What shifts in my life when I trust that I am connected to something deeper? What is going to shift? What shifts? Like, this is massive. This is so massive, you guys. How would I move, speak, and decide if I knew I was supported by my own inner intelligence? How would you move, speak, and decide? Because we are deciding things in every moment. Every moment, I'm going to decide to do this, or I'm going to decide to do this. I'm going to decide to put this shirt on or not, or whatever. Every moment. And that's a silly example. Okay. How would I move, speak, and decide if I knew I was supported by my own inner intelligence? Okay. And what does it feel like to be in full relationship with myself? And am I willing to live from there, from that place? Now, this is the final two short questions. Where is my life already guiding me that I haven't fully trusted yet? This one is really massive to me because I think we have these situations, these relationships, it doesn't matter what it is. Okay, where is life already guiding me that I haven't fully trusted yet? It does not matter what it is. Some of these things are hard. You have to do research. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to talk to other people that maybe have more knowledge on a certain topic than you do. Like there's so many things that this can apply to. Okay, so where is life already guiding me that I haven't fully trusted yet? And then this final question: what would it mean to follow that now? Okay, what would it mean if today you decided, I am going to tap into my inner knowing at the deepest level so I can have full trust in myself? You know, this is where again it can get a little bit triggering for people because we like to put our trust in someone else. We like to put our trust in a doctor, a savior, a authority figure, someone who's going to make a decision for us. And I'm not saying we shouldn't get advice and guidance from all of those things that resonate, but at the core level of who we are, which is pure love, pure consciousness. We are part of God. What more do we need to be, especially in these times? So, what would it mean to follow that now? If what you are being, I need to say that again because this is so perfect. Where is life already guiding me that I haven't fully trusted yet? What is this life guiding me to do, to be, to say? Are you a person who has a really hard time saying I love you to the people you love? That's a simple thing. And maybe you really have a deep desire in your heart to say that more. Maybe you didn't grow up saying that to someone. I'm so blessed. I grew up with parents who were in love with each other and they verbalized it and they showed it with each other. And that was our example. And I am so grateful for that. So you can take that from one small thing like that. That's life guiding you to be more expressive in your feelings because there's something in, what is your fear of that? But happy Easter. I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday and a beautiful full first week in April of 2026. And we'll see you next time.